All right. Thank you again for having me tonight, this evening service. I don't get to do a lot of evening services, but when I do, I always ask if it's okay if I sort of bring a presentation about the camp. I put this presentation together. One of the things that I find is that there are a lot of people who love the camp, who went to camp, all those kind of things in their past and growing up, but not a lot of people understand how the camp works and sort of how it even exists. There's just sort of an assumption that the camp is there. Well, it's up there and there it is. But not a lot of people actually understand how the camp works. And so I put this together to kind of help explain to churches a little bit more about what the camp is, how it operates, things that we want to do at the camp and improve and change and do better. And so that's kind of the point of this presentation. The other thing is this presentation is very informal. So if you have any questions anywhere along the way, please interrupt me and feel free to ask any questions. I'm happy to answer anything I can. I know a lot more now than I did a couple of years ago, but that doesn't mean that I know it all. But I'm happy to answer any questions that I'm able to answer. All right. Well, I'm going to read again to you just the one verse from this morning. This is our theme verse for this year, and then I'm going to open us in a word of prayer, and we'll start the presentation. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10 says this. It says, "We are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." Let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you again for this day. We thank you for this gathering. Lord, I pray that you would use this time to draw our hearts together, to bind us in our love for you and in the grace of Jesus. Lord, I pray that we would understand tonight the goal and the mission and the dream of our camp ministry and what it is that we do. Lord, I pray that we would do that. That you would do that for us and in us. I pray all of this in the name of Christ. Amen. So just kind of at the outset, I kind of want to start by just talking about a little bit about the history of the camp. Some of you know the history of the camp. Some of you probably don't. But the camp has been around. Go on to the slide. I'm going to be just doing this occasionally. This is my clicker to make the slide move. So we're just sort of doing this. So. Anyway, so just to kind of give you an idea, the camp in 1943, this is one of the earliest pictures I could find. This is right around 1950, I believe. It's one of the earliest pictures I could find at the camp. So in 1943, there was a group of people that met in the woods outside Newton, Texas, at an old, I can't remember what they were called, but it was actually sort of a camp or a campground thing that was made by the WPA back in the earlier, like in the 30s and 40s, and then it was kind of abandoned, and then these people got together and they decided, hey, we need a camp out here in Southeast Texas. Am I okay? Hearing like a oh, okay. I was making sure it wasn't me. So they had this dream to have a camp out in the woods in deep Southeast Texas, outside of Newton, and they met outside. As we're told, that they met under a kind of a brush arbor prayer meeting style out there in those woods. They began to pray about what they could do to have a camp out there. And then 2 years later, so they worked for 2 years to get the stuff to buy the property, to incorporate the camp, and all that. The camp was officially incorporated in 1945. So next year will be the camp's 80th anniversary. So 2025 will be the camp's 80th year, and we have some stuff planned for that I'm not at liberty to say yet, but we are going to have kind of a year-long kind of thing that I'm planning off and on, kind of all year-long celebration of the camp's 80 years. They did do that then, and then immediately, as soon as they incorporated, they began planning their first camps. Their first camps started, I believe, I don't know if it was 46 or 47, but it was right around there. So they incorporated, and the next year they got things going. The camp was since then, the camp has seen years of sort of just growth through time. Originally, if any of you remember, the original state of the camp was they had all these white cabins out there. So they were all sort of sort of bunkhouse cabin style that were all at the camp. They were there for till about 2005, 6 was about the last ones were torn down. So probably 15, almost 20 years ago, the last of those cabins were kind of torn down. But they were a fixture for a long time in the woods, those white cabins on all over the property. At one time, there were about 50 of them that were out there. And so thousands and thousands of people have gone through this camp since then. And so I'm grateful to sort of stand in that line. And they dedicated the place to the Lord, and it's been rededicated over and over again through the years, and hopefully continue to do so. You go ahead to the next one. One of the greatest parts of my job is going places like this, going to churches, going to functions, and talking to people that have stories to tell about their time at camp. It's one of the best parts of my job. I love it. Every time I get to hear somebody say, I went there and we did this, and I remember we did that, and the best ones are, obviously, the best ones are, I was saved at camp, or God called me to ministry at camp, or like there's those kind of stories I hear over and over again. It's amazing to hear these stories. Even people that meet their spouse at camp. So I don't know names. No, I'm just like, yeah. Or who fall in love with them at camp. How's that? I don't know. They already knew each other. It's fine. But yeah. Anyway, and now 3 boys. So there you go. So there you go. But anyway, it's great to kind of know that. It's great to meet these people. Tens of thousands of people have come through the camp over the years. It's many tens of thousands have through the years who've come through there. And so I want you to know, and I try to tell our churches that I take that very seriously. That I'm not beginning some new thing. I'm inheriting this. I've inherited from those before me, and that I stand at a point where what I am is just a caretaker. I'm a steward for this camp, and I want to do the best I can. I want to set this camp up for success long after I'm done, and long after the Lord is finished with me there. I want to be able to do that, but I want you to know that I take the heritage of the camp, the past, very seriously as I consider the future and what we want to do in the future. So go ahead. All right, any questions before we get into the actual how it works, so how the camp works? So that's the next section. So the first part kind of introduces it. Any questions? Anybody? All right, good. Awesome. I don't like answering questions anyway. No, I'm playing. So here's a thing about the camp. We get this question a lot, or people are always surprised somehow about how the camp works. Again, there's just kind of an assumption. Well, yeah, I went to camp, and it's camp, right? Well, our camp is operated. It's operated by the member churches of the Golden Triangle Baptist Network and the Sabine Neches Baptist area. These two associations combined, the churches of these two associations combined are our member churches of the East Texas Baptist Encampment. And so I answer to these churches. There are almost 200 of them between the two associations that I answer to. It's about 195 or so is what it's at. I don't remember the last count on the churches. But it's close to 200 churches that I answer to. The way that I answer to them are a couple of ways. One is, most obvious, is right here. I'm here, and the churches, I answer to you. If you decide that you need to bring some kind of complaint to me, well, I'm here to take them, because, or if you have a suggestion, or you have a praise the Lord, you want to tell me something, or you want to write a check for $100,000, I'm right here. I'm just letting you know, I'm right here. I will stay here as long as you want. If you go home, get your checkbook, no problem. I'll stay as long as you want. So, anyway, so I answer to our churches who are the member churches of the encampment of these two associations. The way that they govern the camp is through a board of directors, a board of trustees, and so that's made up of representatives from churches in the Golden Triangle and in the Sabine Neches Baptist area. So these two areas, they both send board members, and we meet 4 times a year. So we meet quarterly. We just had our first one of the year, and in January, we'll meet again in April, we meet in August, and we meet in November. And so we meet every year, 4 times a year. So if you are wondering and you want to know about the board, nothing outside of things that have to be secret for legal reasons, I can discuss with you what we're doing and those kinds of things. All that stuff is the camp belongs to you, is what I'm saying. The camp belongs to our churches. And so you're always welcome to ask questions about the business of the camp, how it's run, all those kinds of things. So essentially what the board does, to give you an idea of the separation between the two things, what the board does is sort of set the overall policies. They deal with things like personnel issues. They deal with like setting the budget for the year. They work on the sort of the Constitution and bylaws, sort of helping us sort of think of the camp sort of as the flyover view of the camp, and so they sort of are in charge of that. And then the director, which is my job as the executive director, I'm sort of in charge of implementing those policies on the ground. So I run all the day-to-day operations. I take sort of direction from the board, and then I have to sort of make the camp run under that direction. Or I have to go to the board and beg them to let me do it a different way, and that happens sometimes as well. So anyway, and if you want to know, you guys actually have a pretty good voice at the camp because your pastor just came onto the board, and so he is now on the board, and so instead of talking to me, you can just go to him. And so he can be the camp representative locally for you. Again, you can always talk to me, but he will have information and he will know things as well going on at the camp, be able to tell you what's happening there. Randy is a great friend, and I am grateful for him being on the board as we kind of look to the future. So, all right, go ahead. Next slide. Here's a question that I get all the time: is how is the camp funded? So everybody, the camp is there. We have all these buildings. We have 5 dormitories, a tabernacle. We have an office, a 28-room lodge currently. We're working on some renovations, but we have 28 rooms that we can use right now. And we have a few other buildings around the property. Those things all require money to keep up. So they all, unfortunately, I can't just go to Lowe's and say, "Don't you want to give me stuff?" And they don't do that. But so it takes money to keep them up and to keep us there, keep the lights on, and keep everything running. And so the question is, how is the camp funded? So there's a few things I want to start with at the beginning. Number one, we do not receive any funding from the national or state conventions. We don't receive any funding. No camp in Texas receives any, or no, let me take that back. No Baptist camp in Texas, there are other kinds of camps, but no Baptist camp in Texas receives any money from the national convention, none from the SBC, and none from either of the 2 state conventions, or the cooperative program as sort of set up that way. So our camps don't receive any funding that way. Outside of if the state or the national conventions were to plan an event at a camp, then they would pay for their event. But they don't give any funding to the camp outside of that. So that's an important thing to sort of set aside. Secondly, our associations also don't really fund the camp. This is something that I've had some confusion over, that people think, well, the associations fund the camp. And so a lot of times churches will think, well, we give to the association and the association gives to the camp, right? That's how we give to the camp. That's not really the way it works. The associations, so just like a church, the association then decide, when they receive their giving, they then decide how they're going to disperse their giving. It's not just sort of if you give to the association, there's a portion that goes to the camp. Now, they can decide that, and that's a question for the associations to answer. And so we do get a little bit of donations from the association. So there's not nothing, but it's also not a fully funded thing from the association. And so that we do get a little bit from them. However, what we get from the associations is not in terms of monetary things, but it's in terms of the partnership of resources. And so that's really where the strength of that comes from, is that I can reach out to Jim Turnbow down here, and I can get connected to our churches down here, and so that I'm then able to talk to our leaders. We also draw most of our camp planning committees come from the two associations for kids camp and boys camp and girls camp and preteen and youth camps. These people all basically come out of these associations, and the associations help us to fill these committees, so that we say, hey, do you have somebody that does it? And so we work in sort of we help each other out, and we also do things for our associations. We host them for different events and that kind of stuff whenever they want to use the camp. And so it's kind of it's an ongoing relationship, but it's not what you would just call a funding kind of relationship. They don't really fund the camps outside of their own events. And so the Golden Triangle has a youth camp that they plan, and then so we get funding through that, and so we get funding that way, but it's not an ongoing funding from the association. So nothing from the national, state, or really associational. So most of our giving comes from individual churches or individuals in churches. So we get most of our donations come from that. So to kind of break it down, it's a little hard to see, but I'll try to explain it. So the chart on the right, what that does is that's a breakdown of our two kinds of funding. So we have what's called program funding, which is the darker one. It's supposed to be a kind of orangey color, but it's not. But anyway, but the darker one on there, the bigger piece of the pie is programming. Programming makes up about 75% of our funding. And what programming means is those are retreats, conferences, camps, basically retreats, conferences, camps, or other group meetings of some kind. So occasionally we'll have a family reunion or something like that at the camp. And so, but basically retreats, conferences, camps, and then other group gatherings. So that makes up about 75% of our budget. About 25% of our budget comes from donations. Now that's from churches and that's from individuals. So about 25% of our operations funding comes from donations. So it kind of gives you an idea. It's hard, I know you have to kind of, it's important to know this kind of thing, because most people don't know. When I go to churches, they just don't. Nobody's ever really broken this down for them to kind of understand how the camp works and how it operates. But it's about 75% programming, about 25% donations. The other pie on the right side, where the colors are flipped, the lighter color is the much larger color, right? And the darker color is the smaller one. So the lighter one, so this represents how our programming funding comes into the camp. And so our programming funding, so the light colored one, that is summer camp revenue, the summer camp funding. That's about 80% of our programming comes from summer camp. About 20% comes from the retreat season. So we make of that 75% chunk, about 80% of that comes in just 2 months of the year. And then the other 10 months, there's when we make about 20% of that 75%. So I think it's a good breakdown to let you know that our camps really do. I mean, and this is not unheard of. This is I would say more common than not. I would say it's probably the majority of camps. This is what you're going to find, is that the summer camp sort of season is where the vast bulk of their funding comes from, which is why it's so important that we have good camps and that we can attract people and draw people in, because that's where we get the bulk of our funding, is by people using our camp in the summertime for camps. So go to the next one real quick. Yeah, all right, go back for just a second. Go back to the other one. Are there any questions about how the camp operates? So those two sort of things about how the structure and then how it's funded. Any questions about that before we go to the next thing?
So it depends on how many people come to camp.
It does, very much.
Wow, I never.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. Yes. We have multiple groups there occasionally, not often. As far as in the summertime, no. In the summer, it's exclusive use only. So if there's a group that has the camp, they have the camp. This coming summer there'll be a slight modification of that. We're going to have a work group there while a camp is going on. So it won't be two camps there, but there will be a volunteer group working while there's will be about a 2-day overlap of their groups. So there's a little bit. But in the retreat season, depending on the sizes of the groups, we can host multiple groups just because of our meeting spaces, that kind of thing. The largest group we can handle is about 400 at the camp. We can. I probably should make a slide about that, but I don't have one. Our camp capacity is around 400. We have 392 beds in our dormitory, and then we have about 100 beds or 100 spaces for people to sleep in our lodge. Now that I know that's almost 500. However, our tabernacle capacity is only about 400, and so I say that our camp capacity is 400 because even if we had 500 people, we couldn't serve 500 people because our tabernacle couldn't hold that many. We do. We have 13 camper sites that are our full hookups, 30 and 50 amp breakers, water and sewer at those sites. So we have 13 of those. We also do have some people. We've had some not all the time, but we have had some sort of scout groups, ROTC groups that will come out in tent camp as well, and that's allowed. We allow that as well on the property. Then let's see, we have 392 beds, and then about 100 can fit in the lodge. If you do 4 to a room, you can do about 100 people there. So very good question. But yeah, basically everything depends on people using the camp. Unless somebody's just, going to write me some checks here. Pretty much everything depends on people using the camp. Yeah.
So I have to think competition or like if we want to be where we need to be, but we probably need those to be more halves.
That's probably so. One thing that holds true is that one on the right, this the summer and retreat season one, that will never equalize. You will always going to make more in the summer than you are in retreat season. It's impossible to catch up with it because in the summertime you're just going to be nonstop. There's never like a break in that. Now, I do think and we are seeing some growth in our retreat season since I've been there. We worked very, very hard to sort of begin to build our retreat season out more, and so that is something that is growing. My goal is, so to get to your idea, my goal in the retreat season. So essentially what you have to do is in the summertime, you make your revenue, and then you kind of have to make it stretch over the next 10 months. And you just sort of have to make it stretch out across that time. And so after the end of the summer, you have all your money, and then basically you just sort of watch it get lower and lower and lower and lower as the year goes by. But my goal is to get our retreat season healthy enough to where we're close to a break even number for each month. So we don't have to really make profit. We don't have to show profit. We're a nonprofit, but be in the black. We don't have to necessarily show profit during the retreat season, but if we could get to where we're not having to eat so much of our summertime revenue, Because what that means is then we'll be able to take the summertime revenue and put it toward new projects and improvements and advancing the camp and those kinds of things. It would allow us to get out of a cycle of sort of hand-to-mouth kind of cycle. And so those are kind of my goals to this. So it's a really good question about the breakdown of that. Yeah, I don't know why not. So the camp's budget, I don't think it's a private.
Oh, she said you could post that?
Yeah.
Can you disclose, can you tell people that?
I can tell you the overall budget. I probably don't know if I can break down the whole thing, but it's, yeah, the ballpark is between $600,000 and $700,000 a year. So that's our annual budget. I don't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere between there. This year. How many full-time? We have 2 full-time, and then we have 1 that's sort of part-time, full-time, and then I have basically I have sort of like just sort of hourly kids that come out and work a couple days a week. And so I've got some helpers that just help me do stuff around the camp. They come out and do a couple days a week. Most of those are former staffers, so they worked in the summer, and then they're local enough that they can come out and just help me a couple of days a week, kind of thing. And so that's the way that works. But really, I really have 2 real full-time positions at the camp currently. In the summer we have about 25 full-time, more than full-time people working in the summertime. The bulk of those are our summer staff. But so during the summer, the camp season, we have about 25 to 28, somewhere in there, or should. If we're at full summer staff, it's about 28 altogether, with us and the summer staffers. During this time of year, there's 2 full-time year-round employees, plus 1 more that's like a full-time, part-time kind of deal.
If there was a big storm that caused some damage to the church, do you have insurance that takes care of that?
We do. We have insurance. It's very expensive. It's very expensive. So, yeah, but we do have it, yes. We have many millions of dollars policies at the camp for different things, but we have to carry quite a lot of insurance. For our buildings. We have 13 buildings insured at the camp, in addition to activities. So activities are also insured, but they're insured separately. Yes, sir.
You know, churches, cabins?
No, sir. Those have gone away. Those have all those cabins are gone. Well, they're not all gone, but no one stays in those cabins anymore. We have a couple of them left that are storage buildings that have been converted into storage buildings, but we no longer use the bunkhouse cabins anymore. Yes, sir.
Do you have groups from different areas that come, or a week or something, and come work on the camp?
We do. Yes, sir. We have volunteer groups that come out. So pretty much every fall for about a month, so 2 weeks. They come for 2 weeks. They take a break, come back for 2 weeks. But there's a group called Campers on Mission that comes out, and they come out and they help us with construction work and sort of maintenance needs at the camp, that kind of thing. So they come out and work with us. We also have groups that will come out just for a day. We have churches that will come out and work. You can go on to the next slide now, because that's actually getting into the question you're asking. That next slide is. And so we have groups that come out. In fact, this summer we have a group that. So this is kind of an amazing thing that happened. So I get to share some really incredible news with all of you. So I got contacted back in October by a group out of Alabama that it was looking for a place to do a mission project. And I said, okay, we're happy to have y'all. And so all they ask for is just a place to stay. They bring all their own food, all that stuff. They just need a place to lodge, and they want to bring a crew to work at the camp. So they're going to work at the camp, and then they're going to work with one of the local churches right around the camp, about 10 minutes from the camp. They're going to work with them as well, with some Bible school and outreach and that kind of stuff. And so, but they're bringing 150 people to the camp to spend a week doing volunteer work at the camp and in the community. And so it's kind of incredible that they're bringing this many people. They're coming at the very end of the summer, so they're going to be there like about the last week of July. They're going to be up there working and just really doing a lot. And so by the time they get done, if they're able to do all the things that we've laid out, we've kind of gone through a project list. If they're able to do all of that, the camp will see some dramatic improvement between this year and next year. So we'll see some really dramatic improvement in some areas between the 2 years. So it's going to be a big movement in that direction. So we do have groups that come out. Anytime you want, you're welcome to come out and work at the camp. So just to kind of let you know, so this time of year, I know everybody thinks January is the first part of the year. That is not true for camps. It just is not true. January is the middle of the camp year. It's not the beginning of the camp year. The beginning of the camp year is August. So our January is actually August. As soon as people leave and as soon as we shut down for the summer, our new year starts, because everything we do builds to the next June 1st. And so right now, we're actually in the middle of our prep season for camp. Instead of being at the beginning of it, we're right in the middle of it. In fact, we're a little past the middle, which makes me a little nervous, but we're actually a little bit past the middle way point now. Now that we're into February, for getting ready for our camp season. And so it takes a lot to get camp going. And so people ask me, they do actually ask, just like y'all were asking volunteers, asking about that. So what can we do to be a part of what the camp is about? So before I tell you what you can do to be a part of it, I want to tell you sort of my priorities for the camp. So whenever they interviewed me for this job, what they asked, one of the questions they asked me, one of the first questions was, what is your vision for the camp? Well, I've been thinking a lot about that because I assumed they would ask me that question in the interview. And what I tried to come up with, what I tried to think on my own was, what is it that camp does that's different from other things? Right? Because that's how you find who you are, is like what makes camp different and unique, and what does camp do that other things don't do? And what I came up with was this, is that I believe that our camp exists to create and facilitate I mentioned it in the service this morning, what I call a concentrated gospel environment, which is where it's concentrated, meaning that everything there, when you go up there, you get away from your sort of everyday life. When you go up there, all of the focus is on the gospel. It's on sharing the love of Christ with these people. When kids come up there and they're doing activities, every person they meet, every adult they meet, the goal is that every adult they meet is a believer. Every adult. Every person they meet is another opportunity to share the love of Christ with the campers that come up there, or anyone who uses the camp. And so a concentrated gospel environment. That's what I think camp does, unlike just about anything else. It just does that. It creates this kind of, you can create that kind of environment. And so to try to reach that goal, try to reach that vision, I have what I call my 4 priorities. So my 4 priorities. The first priority is purposeful discipleship, which means that that camp exists and we exist to serve our Lord, like on purpose. We are serving Christ purposefully there. The camp, you cannot create a concentrated gospel environment by accident. It does not happen that way. Like you can't build that kind of culture. You can't build that kind of place by accident. It must be purposeful discipleship. The second one is joyful partnerships. Joyful partnerships are things like this, is building partnerships with our churches. Our camp exists as an extension of the local church's ministry. That's how that camp exists. And so I typically say that the 2 things the camp exists for is 1, to serve the Savior, and 2, to serve his bride. Those are the 2 things that the camp exists to serve, or those 2 parts. That's what makes the camp important. Number 3 is quality personnel. And so quality personnel means I want people at the camp who believe in the first 2 priorities. So I want people there who believe in purposeful discipleship and joyful partnerships. That's who I want there. That's what I mean by quality personnel. And so that's what I want there. And then the fourth one is excellent facilities. All of us know that a bad experience in facilities can color the rest of your experience about everything else. And so I typically will tell people that the only offensive thing I want there to be at the camp is the gospel. That's it. That's the only thing I want you to be offended by the entire time you're there is the gospel. If that's what happens, then it's been a success. So it's easy. You can get offended by a clogged toilet. Yeah, that's fine. It happens. Or a broken air conditioner. Unfortunately, that those things happen usually right when people get there on registration day. It's when the air conditioner breaks, when it's been working fine, and then they show up, and you're like, oh, great, yeah, the hottest day of the year, and you're, oh, great. But my goal is for the only offensive thing at that camp to be the gospel. Like the only confrontation that you'll have will be the gospel itself. And so that's my goal. So those are my vision. Those are the 4 priorities that I think should feed to help us achieve that vision. So how can you be a part of that? Doesn't that sound great, right? So how can you be a part of those things? The first one is to pray for our camp. Really, the more I have this job, the more I just go in life and grow as a believer, the more important prayer becomes to me, and my own need of it and my lack of it, and not praying enough, but understanding that it is so desperately important to our lives and to the success of the ministry and the work that we do and what God's called us to is really quite important. The next one is tell your church about the work of the camp. Like me, you guys are here. You're hearing this. You've heard this kind of thing. Maybe you learned something that you didn't know about the camp tonight, and you're going to learn about some of the things that we are doing. But tell people about the good work of the camp. Let them know that this is a place that really truly does extend the ministry of our church and of your church. Let people know. Next one is investing in the future of ETBE. Now, this is done through several ways. This is done through, it can be financial giving, it can be your time, investing in the future of the camp. It also happens by bringing kids to camp, or setting up a retreat, or some kind of anything like that. That's investing in the future of the camp, helping us to maintain and move forward as a camp. We actually, I want to tell you about something I am very excited about. It is on there, but we're just now going live with a new feature on our website. So one of the things that when I first moved to Texas in 2015, I met the camp director, and one of the very first things that I asked him was, how can we come and do some kind of project at the camp? Like, I've got people, they've got tools, they've got time, I've got youth, I've got parents. How do we get plugged in to come and do something at the camp? And so that was something that I asked, and it's something that has been asked over and over again, and people have asked me since I got there, but there's never really been a mechanism to be able to do that. Well, there is now. Like we're just now going live with it. I've been working on this project for a while, for about 6 months, trying to get it off the ground and get the project going. And so now we have a landing page on our website. It's etbe.org/volunteers. And so you go there, and you'll be able to see current volunteer projects. So you'll be able to see them. And in that, you'll also be able to see about how many people it should take, the materials, the scope of the work, about how much it costs. If you want to do the project, then you can sign up to do the project. If for instance you say, well, we can't physically come do the project, but we want to give toward the project. Well, there's a donation button there where you can give toward a project, a certain project. And so we've made this. We're going live with it right now. Actually last week I just filmed a little promotional video for it, so we can put it out, far and wide across all of our social media, and put it on our website and stuff. But this is something that is sort of dear to me, because I get asked this question a lot is there some way to know what can we actually do? People want to know what can we do? And they want some sort of specific thing they can sort of latch on to as a project. And so that's what I'm very excited to launch this year, to sort of go live with it. Again, there's some of these things here. I've already mentioned some of the others: setting up your own activities, bringing kids to camp, sending kids to camp, sending your young adults to be staffers at the camp. Our staffers, as long as they're age 16 through college age, then we'll look at them. We accept applications for them to come stay at the camp with us during the summertime. And then the last one is you can serve on the board. So if you're interested in serving on the board, then sorry, probably won't happen from here because you already have one person on the board. But whenever he gets sick of me and he rotates off the board, you can put somebody else on the board from here. It's fine. All right. Any questions about kind of that side of things? Okay. Excellent. Going to the next one. All right. So let's talk about some of the future things about the camp. So everybody wants to know about the future. We talked about the past, sort of the history of the camp. Let's talk about the future. So I'm hoping, let me check my time. Am I running out of time yet? Nope, plenty of time. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. See, I'm gonna get you out of here before 6. So all right. So let's talk about some of our future projects. So right now we're in the middle of a project. So this summer, this group that's coming out. So when I first came to the camp, so I made this slide, this one in particular. I made this slide almost 2 years ago. So over a year and a half ago, I made this slide, or at least the things on the right, on the left, where I wrote that down, or about a year and a half ago. That thing, the first one there says Ferris Bathhouse Project. And so I've had this thing when I got there that one of our dormitories is not really able to be used to its fullest capacity because we don't have enough bathrooms. And so the state of Texas requires that you have to have so many sinks, toilets, and showers per so many beds. Like it's a state regulation. It's 15 if you want to know. So that's the number. And so we have to manage that. Well, one of our buildings, our Ferris dormitory, it doesn't have enough to be able to fill the dorm to its full capacity. So I had this idea to have a bathhouse built onto the back of it, on the back of the building, so that we could use that building to its fullest capacity. And truthfully, it's a dream project. Like I thought it was going to be years away before we'd be in a place financially, in a place where we could do this, until I got a call from this group in Alabama, who told me, when I told them about this project, they said, if you want to build it, if you're willing to build it in a pole barn style, which would be on sort of pier and beam kind of built that way. If you're willing to build it that way, we can build this building for you in a week. So they said we can have it dried in with a roof on it in a week, and then we could finish it after that, but we can have this building done for you in a week's time. And I was kind of floored by that. I was like, what are you talking? Like, really? And they said, yeah. So we have the crews that can do it. And so it's amazing. It's kind of an amazing thing. Answer to prayer. Like I say, this is something that first came into my mind, a year and a half ago, where I just saw this need, and I was like, there's just this need that really, really needs to be done. But it looks like we're going to be able to move forward in it. Our ropes course was built in 2008. Or at least the main part of it was. And so I'm working on a project now of renovating some parts of our ropes course. We replaced our climbing wall last year. So then we have a brand new climbing wall that went up, and we finished it last fall. And so we have a new wall we opened this summer. So a new climbing wall will be up. We also are rebuilding our zip line at the ropes course. And so that will be up as well at the beginning of the summer also. So we're redoing some ropes course stuff there. Our lake needs some help. So water, we have a leak in the dam. There's some issues with that, and we're working with some people to get the lake restored, to get it in better condition for the kids to use. There's a lot of canoeing and kayaking and yelling and screaming and dumping people out that happens at the lake every summer. It's against the rules, but it doesn't matter when they're on the water because I can't reach them and slap them from the bank. So anyway. I just have a whistle. That's pretty much all I got. So I just stand on the bank and blow my whistle. So anyway, let's put it this way. Rule number 2 is do not dump out your boat. That's rule number 2. Rule number 3 is if you dump out your boat, do this. So it's just kind of like it's going to happen, but we still make it the rules that you're not supposed to do it. So one of those pictures, so the 2 pictures on the right side of that, the top and bottom one on the right. So this is something that was, again, I wrote this a year and a half ago, but I had this dream of being able to do this. And this past fall, I was able to accomplish part of it. So what I call kind of phase 1. And so we were able to take our cafeteria that used to be separated out dining. There were 2 dining halls. We had the main hall and the annex. I was able to actually take out the dividing wall between them and open up the cafeteria seating. We were able to add about 80 chairs to the cafeteria, about 80 seats in there this past fall. And so it's created a lot more usable space in our cafeteria, which brings our cafeteria capacity almost in line with our lodging capacity, which is fantastic, which is really, really good to be able to do that. Uh-oh. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Yes?
I noticed on your website it said that when you're scheduling for swimming parties and things like that, you have to have lifeguards on duty.
Yes, sir.
Do you all have lifeguards?
We do. You could provide your own as long as you provide our office with their certificates.
We just say we need lifeguards.
I'm a lifeguard. One of my daughters is a lifeguard. Yes. If you rent out the pool or the lake, there's a lifeguard that gets assigned. That's part of the charge on the lake and the pool is to pay for lifeguards because we do have to pay. If I'm doing it, it's kind of part of the deal. But if I have to bring in staffers, I have to pay them separately to be our lifeguards. But if you use the lake or the pool, you have to have we require certified lifeguards at the lake and the pool. Oh, hey, there we go. All right. The picture on the bottom left, so the one on the top left is just an old picture of the breezeway because I thought it's a neat old picture of it. The bottom left one is a little hard to tell what that is, but I just replaced Friday. So I just replaced all of the rec field lighting on our rec field for our activities and our games field, and so it's making a huge difference already. You can actually see out there at night to play, so kids can play games. You can have your recreation time at night and have some good activities out there for nighttime. That's going to be a big improvement for this summer, is to have some actual nighttime lighting because people want to do camp all the way up until the last possible hour of the day, and so we need to be able to accommodate that and get them as much light as they can get. Okay, go on to the last slide. We'll go ahead and do it. I'll let you know. I always end with this slide because all the other things don't matter if we don't remember what's most important about camp. And that is that the camp exists to serve the Lord and to serve His people. And so I always have this slide last, so when we see it, we will see this is what's most important. The buildings are great. The activities are fun. All that is important. Serving these people. Those kids in that bottom middle picture that are standing there in front of the bell with a little cross on top of it. All those kids. That's one of our kids camp from a long time ago. Back in the 80s was when that picture was taken. And so it's these kids out at camp. Who knows how they were affected by that 1 week at camp? Who knows how many people came to know the Lord, grew up, had their own children who maybe they sent to camp. Maybe somebody in there that did that. Who knows, right? We don't know. One of my favorites about it, just expressing kind of the joy of camp is the little picture in the top right of this little girl at a GA camp doing the sack race, and I just think it's awesome. And so she is they called her like high flying in the sack race thing. So I love that picture. It's one of my absolute favorite ones. But that's what we remember. And that picture's from the 50s. Like that's a long time ago. That little girl is at least if she's living and had children, at least a grandmother, maybe almost a great grandmother. I mean, but again, this reminds me of the generational faithfulness of the camp and how I so desperately want us to be in that work of being generationally faithful to the camp, so that more and more people beyond me and beyond my generation can continue to have a place where they can know the love of Christ. So, all right. Thank you very much for that. If y'all have any other questions, I'm happy to take them now. So.
Are there other camps around the state that you can contact and walk out bands?
There are. I'm pretty good friends with the directors at Piney Woods Camp and out in, well, I think it's technically Wood Lake, but it's the Groveton, Wood Lake, Corrigan kind of area. So that's where that camp is. I contact there's a director in Trinity, Texas, and the camp there is called Trinity Pines, and so I know him. And there are other camps. There are about 17 Baptist camps in the state of Texas, just to kind of give you an idea of Baptist camping in Texas. There's about 17 of them. McKinney? Don't know. You remember the name of it? Yeah, the towns are not the things I know. I just know the name of the camp, so I could tell you the name of the camp, but I don't remember the names of the towns that they're in, or most of them I don't, at least. So, anyway, any other questions? Any other thoughts? About 125. Yeah, about 125 acres is at the camp. All right. Okay. Thank y'all again so much for having me. 5 minutes to spare. 5 minutes to spare. Yeah, see, that got a clap. See, there you go. There you go. There you go. I do very much appreciate you guys having me today. It's been a joy to be with you. So.